You know, when you meet Hollywood superstars, it's very strange because the stories that come out from them are literally amazing. And you have to remember that they lived it. They were there during the golden period of Hollywood. Huge stars that mainly a lot of people have now forgotten, but they were very powerful. You know, names like Van Johnson, a big star, but of course in today's world, not as say recognized as say somebody like James Dean or indeed Elvis Presley. Another name, though, that was a massive name in that particular period was none other than this good-looking man called Peter Lawford. Now, I met Peter Lawford very briefly on his very final visit over here to London, where he was promoting his autobiography. Yes, it was a rather dubious affair, let's just say the least. But what was interesting about this particular story, it was told to me by another Hollywood legend, Mickey Rooney. And Mickey told me that how Peter Lawford had his eyes set on becoming something of a royal. I kid you not. As ever, let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you today, and as ever, thank you for taking the time out to join me. You know, when we think about royalty, we just think of instantly the sort of family around them, but of course, you don't necessarily think the manoeuvres that are going on, perhaps further afield across the Atlantic Ocean. You see, this particular individual, Peter Lawford, did get fame, and he did get a bit of fortune, all thanks to the likes of good MGM movies put together by Louis B. Mayer, but more importantly, his association with the brilliant Frank Sinatra and his Rat Pack. But it was his mother, Lady May Crawford, that was very pushy. And when you look into Lady May, as Mickey Rooney told me, everybody was absolutely terrified of her. Her background herself was rather dubious, as was the title. And in fact, let's not forget that the husband that she was married to wasn't in fact Peter's father, but she brushed over so many scandals and just pushed ahead. She was one of these sort of people that was forever broke, you know, but used the title to stay in the very best restaurants and dine out and in the hotels and stuff like that, leaving a trail of bills behind for whatever husband she had at the time. More importantly, what she saw as her son developed was a very good-looking boy, and she felt the only way he could get on in life was to move into the arts. And it was really a fluke. A talent scout alongside Freddie Bartholomew actually spotted Peter and suggested that they had a screen test over at MGM. Now fast forward, and he's been in quite a few movies, including the ubiquitous Lassie. Louis B. Mayer didn't necessarily think he was leading man material, but with a war on and a real sort of lack of leading men, he got certain opportunities. You see how this works. But Lady May was incredibly demanding, and apparently, according to Mickey, one of the only ladies that Louis B. Mayer was absolutely terrified of. Interesting, isn't it? Now, Louis B. did like Lady May's idea of, well, basically accelerating MGM's hold onto the British royal family. And she suggested that Peter should go over and try and woo the very young Princess Elizabeth. Now, you know, you've got to remember this is pre-internet, not every story gets out there. And according to Mickey, they had no idea that, of course, the princess only had eyes already for Prince Philip, or, you know, the Duke of Edinburgh, whatever you want to call him at the time. And it's fascinating, isn't it, when you think, because what they tried to do, they came over here on a promotional visit, and Louis B. Mayer was offering anything, money, use of the palace, whatever it took to try and placate Lady May. He liked the idea of pushing forward with this particular royal connection. Quite where it would have gone, who knows? However, sadly, even at that point, she had to relent. They tried things like getting into royal events, garden parties, one-to-one meetings. Nothing was happening. But however, Lady May didn't give up. She was very pushy for her son. And more importantly, she wanted him to marry well. So as we now all know, a few years later down the line, while Princess Elizabeth slipped away and out of consciousness, she decided to look at another, more affluent family, some people might suggest, the Kennedys. That's right, Peter Lawford married Patricia Kennedy, the younger sister, of course, of JFK in the middle 50s. Big spectacular affair of which both the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh were invited to. You see, she never gave in. Sadly, of course, that union didn't particularly last, and towards the end of his life, sadly for Peter Lawford, things really went well astray. His mother was a difficult, demanding, and absolutely ruthless person, according to Mickey Rooney, in pushing him forward and getting exactly the sort of lifestyle that she wanted. Nobody truly believed her background stories of affluence and connections and all that sort of stuff, but she sold it so well, and more importantly, because of her accent, even Louis B. Mayer believed her, even at times thinking it can't be true, but he'd give her the benefit of the doubt. As we all know, sadly, Peter Lawford passed away way too early in his life, but through a life of excess and, of course, scandal. But more importantly now, behind him, leaves this wonderful story. And Mickey Rooney said, even at points, that Louis B. Mayer would often fantasize in his great big office over at Culver City and think that perhaps his greatest catch ever would be to have one of his major MGM stars marrying into the British royal family. Sadly for him, and more importantly, Lady May Crawford, it never happened. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.